You're listening to the Blacktop Banter podcast, the premier podcast in the asphalt industry, made for contractors with contractors.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Blacktop Banter. And if you've been listening, I don't know, the last 8-10 episodes or so, we've had a couple of repeat guests come back, my friends. And I was very fortunate to spend some time with our guests today, recently at Ignite Construction Summit, and it was very nice to treat me and Chris to dinner. We had a great conversation. Was very nice. One of the slowdown times that I got at Ignite. And the person who treated me to that was my friend Chris Tammany. So Chris owns Petra Paving, New Hampshire. Chris is a repeat guest. His extensive bio is on the previous episode. But the reason that I asked him to come here, we had a great conversation, as I said, and got to know each other more personally. And we found out that a lot of what makes us up as humans and men and people of integrity were in alignment. And it wasn't that long after, I think a couple weeks, I seen a post on LinkedIn that Chris had put. And I'm paraphrasing. I'll let Chris go into the post, which is why he's on here today. We're going to talk about this. There was a stump underneath the driveway from somebody who had previously put it in, if it was a driveway or a parking lot, and that had rotted and caused a sinking area or a sinkhole there. So in the comment section on that post, there were other contractors commenting, including myself. And yes, there was a surface issue, but there was also a deeper issue. And I asked Chris to come on and talk about that with us. So, Chris, thank you for joining us again, my friend.
Yeah. Oh, great to be here. So,
yeah. I tried getting Chris on. He said he was up north hunting. What's that?
I said Ignite was great. It was a good time.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They did a great job putting us all together again. You know what I'm coming to find out? We never run out of things to talk about.
Right.
We get together and we get together and there's always something new to talk about with all of us. So it's always nice to be able to get back into it and get around your peers and have good conversation, which is why we're here today. But tell us a little bit about this LinkedIn post. I've been on LinkedIn a lot lately. I can't get away from it. And it's getting to be very good for contractors like yourself and myself to not only show our work and what we do, but discuss topics decently. A lot of other platforms don't allow you to do that. There's a lot of, right. I don't know how you want. I'm just gonna say bull crap. There's a lot of bull crap gets flown around in those other ones, but LinkedIn's great. So tell us about the post and the job.
So the post was just pictures of a stump dump that we had found underneath a driveway. I don't know about other sectors in the United States, but up in New England, it's still in some instances legal to bury stumps in the ground. It's supposed to be done in a very responsible way and done in a certain method to cause as minimal sinking over the years as possible. But unfortunately, that post was pictures of stumps that were buried right under the driveway, which unfortunately happens quite a bit. And the excavation companies that do it, I pretty much do it with the mindset of it'll be 20, 25 years before this thing rears its ugly head. Nobody will even remember who was here and up here. A lot of the houses change ownership 2 or 3 times in that period of time. So that, in this particular instance, the people that had this driveway had only owned the house for about 4 years, and the house was coming up on 25, 26 years old. And you could tell that it had been a problem previously, and I think what had happened was the previous owners, before they sold it, had another paving company come in and just add hot top to the sinking area of the driveway, because when the excavator went in and started to peel the hot top up in that area, the hot top was 10 to 12 inches thick. So
Dang.
basically what had happened in that particular driveway was not only did they bury stumps, but they buried rocks, big rocks, and I'm talking like, one rock would fill the bed of a pickup truck. So they buried these
Dang,
rocks
boulders
in and amongst the stumps and created huge air voids down there. And, you get some cracks in the asphalt and everything else. The water starts working its way down through, washing the fines into the air voids, creating, pockets up above the stump dump, which allow the driveway to cave in. And this one, unfortunately for the homeowner, had let go to the point where you could look 4 or 5 feet down into the ground through the driveway. And the oil company and everything else refused to come up the driveway. So unfortunately, he was at a point where he had to deal with it.
Dang.
So
yeah.
the only way to deal
So
with
somebody
it
had been somebody had just been kicking the can, right? Like they figured they were passing the buck. They were passing the buck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The previous owner knew there was an issue. Sometimes people just don't have a clue what it is. They think the ground just settled. And we will get those calls every once in a while. Hey, my driveway caved in, and you go and look at it, and they're like, yeah, I just, fill it in, smooth it out. And at that point, you have to tell them, listen, there's more going on here than just the ground settled.
Yeah.
And at that point, you have to explain to them what it is. And stump dumps are always a very hard situation because everybody wants a set price, and at that point we have to explain to them, can't give you a set price because, one, I don't know how deep the stumps are, the machine that they buried them with, if it's bigger than mine, and I can't reach all the way to the bottom. There's so many variables. How much material are we bringing back in to fill the hole in once we strip out all the stumps? So, you have to give them unit pricing at that point and say, here's, I tell them, the only number I can give you is the bare minimum, and I can give you the cost per unit after that. It's X amount of dollars per load out, X amount of dollars per load in, X amount of dollars per day for the excavator and the trucks, and go at it that way. And
do you think the there's no way to tell really, but do you think the excavator, whoever put the driveway in, knew what they were doing, or were they
I mean, there was, when my guys were digging it out, and because that's what one of them said, he said, it's obvious there was only one area that this driveway was going to go. He said they had to have known that they were burying this in the footprint of the driveway, and I said, absolutely they did.
Dang.
I said, you look at
what, to save loads? To save loads of gravel, Chris, or what?
Yeah, exactly. So they'll dig a huge hole. Two things. They are eliminating the disposal cost of stumps, and they're also creating dirt that they might need to fill in another area. So that's commonly what's done. And we've seen areas where the material in the ground was exceptionally nice material, so they might even haul stumps in off another project and keep making the hole bigger and deeper and putting everything they can in that hole to rape the material out of there to take somewhere else and use it. And we've run into those before too, and that's when you get to the point where you just got to tell the people, we're outside the footprint of the driveway, we're at this much money, the stumps keep going under the lawn, do you want to go after them or not? And more often than not, they're always like, nope.
So, they want to be done. They want to be done with it versus keep going. That was going to be one of my next questions. Like, how far does it go? Like, how big do they do it? And
I've had a couple of them where we were at 4 loads of stumps out,
gosh,
there were still stumps. You could, we were 5 or 6 feet outside the area of the driveway, and and even at that, it's questionable. Because, you've got a 4 or 5 foot wall outside the driveway, and we can stabilize that, but over the years, as that that barrier or stumps up against that wall starts to rot and settle more. I mean, that wall can get compromised, which in 20 or 30 more years could cause the driveway on that edge to settle again as everything moves and compacts. But
dang,
you know, so at that
what does that? Go ahead.
Most guys around here, and this is one of the reasons which brought us into buying our own excavator and everything, is because we couldn't even get the majority of excavation guys. The minute you said stump dump, they'd hang the phone up. They were like,
oh, really?
People don't want anything to do with them because they're a communication nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to go in, you have to be very open as to what this could turn into. You have to, you know, basically, like I always, like I said earlier, I can tell the people the minimum just to start, and then give them the unit pricing, and we've done enough of them now that I can tell them the average is this, but we have had ones that have gone all the way to this.
Yeah, so, that's tough.
So you have the communication is huge. One thing we kind of like to make sure happens when we do them is that the homeowner is home, so that there's no question about, hey, we took 4 loads out, and they're not standing there going, well, I don't know, I wasn't here, how do I know? You know, like the one I posted pictures about, the homeowner, the husband and the son were home the whole day watching us, and you know, they kept coming outside taking pictures, shaking their head, and I mean, at one point, one of the stumps was so big, I thought I was going to have to make a phone call to an excavation buddy of mine, get a bigger machine over, because I was struggling getting it out of the hole, because it was about 10 feet down, and we luckily we managed to get it out, and we were able to get it in the truck, but it was so big that when it got back to the yard, we had to hook a chain to it and lift it out of the body of the dump truck, because it wouldn't pass through the gate.
Wouldn't lift it. Dang. Oh, wouldn't pass through the gate. Dang.
Yeah, it wouldn't pass through the gate.
That's kind of like what you're describing is if you went to a car lot and they were like, yeah, you can buy them here. They start at about $10,000. Go ahead. And then like, well, how much is the one I'm going to pick going to be? We don't know. We don't know until you decide that's the one, and you have to pick one. Like if you need a car, so so you got to get one, or a truck, which is I mean, that's tough. That's a tough sell. If you're the guy selling that work, that's tough. I get why those guys are like, yeah, we don't want any part of it, and hang the phone up. That's tough.
And I mean, I don't know how guys are out in your area, but the majority of excavation guys around here, they're not good at communication. They don't even want people watching them. You know what I mean? It's a tough thing. I mean,
they just want to do the work.
Right. They want to just show up, do the work, leave, and you send them a check. But I mean, it's one of those things where you've got to be taking pictures, and if the homeowner's not there, you got to be taking pictures, updating them, showing them. And if the homeowner is home, sometimes we'll even go up and knock on the door and say, hey, just, you know, once you get 2 minutes, come out and see what we're doing, and you know, leave a pile of stumps on the ground so they can see it, you know. But
so let's dig into.
Day, you know, you told them it could start at 3,000-4,000, and you know, once our train of thought is once you break that minimum, now you better bring them out and introduce them to what you're doing. So that they can, you know, and at that point you can
bring them along.
Hey, we're going beyond the minimum at this point. Just, you know, and go.
What do you want me to do?
Right.
Yeah, like
and
just so you know, like
I mean, there have been times where we get the stump dump done, and then it might sit for 2 years because they don't have the money to rip up the rest.
Come back and pave it. Oh yeah, do the rest. So it's tough. So. That's what it does to the driveway. Like that's what it does to the driveway and the surface and whatnot. But the bigger thing is what it does to us as contractors, right? Like that you said the homeowner come out and was like shaking his head. Like, I can't believe this. And what we're doing essentially, or what you're doing, I've never encountered this. I have in a small capacity. Like right here we have pine trees, so they'll get cut down and then they'll put gravel over them and just leave the stump there. Never is it like a big dump. So you'll have like one drop in the asphalt. And either we cold patch it or we'll cut it and put hot mix in if that's what they want to do. But what ends up happening is it didn't get done right the first time. And if it's the same homeowner that had the driveway installed, there's a little bit of a dismay, right, of being let down, a little bit of disappointment of why didn't they just do it right the first time. Now I have this patch in my driveway that wouldn't have to be there, right, and I had to call somebody else to come out, and now I have to make sure that they're doing it right versus just trusting that the contractors are supposed to know what they're doing and doing it right the first time. So explain that to me a little bit.
Well, it's aggravating because, like you just addressed, they've had to call you to come out now to correct this problem. And if it is the original homeowner that paid somebody else to do it, now they realize, hey, we got taken. So now everything you say, they're looking at you sideways, thinking, well, the last guy lied to me, so this guy probably is. So now you have to put a lot of extra time and effort into building a relationship with these people, and the hard part is to understand that right out of the gate they don't trust you, and as a reputable contractor, I'm sure you feel the same way about it. It's an uneasy feeling. You don't like, we're not out there to make lifelong friends out of everybody, but by the same token, you're there to hopefully let these people know that, hey, I'm one of the good guys. And you sound like a used car salesman when you're saying that, because they all think you
shouldn't have to do that,
right?
But, you shouldn't have to do that.
Those are some of the obstacles you have to overcome when you're doing this type of work. Is you have to understand right out of the gate that these people, once you've explained the problem, and like that instance that you're talking about, now you cut the hot top open and you can see remnants of a stump, or the stump's still there, at that point, it'd be real easy just to cover the stump over with some hot mix, and you're going to get 3 or 4 years before it goes bad again. But at that point, now you got to go to the door, knock on the door, and tell the homeowner, hey, the stump's still here. What do you want to do? I can do this, or I can do this. And
it's tough. You're giving them an option, but
sometimes that option is you're just kicking the can down the road, like you said earlier.
Again.
But if you do that, at that point you best have everything in writing, have them sign it, right, hey, you
in the
moment
in the moment you have to draft up an agreement,
right? We're not correcting the initial problem.
No, the thing is, if let's just say you and I are going to go somewhere to eat and somebody recommends it and we go there and it says 5 stars and everything, we trust already that it's going to be worth whatever we pay for it, right?
Right.
The thing is, that doesn't happen enough in our industry. So when we go in and say, hey, we're one of the good guys, we have good stuff, it's going to be X amount. It's tough for the homeowner or for the property owner or the asphalt asset owner, because they already feel like they got took and they paid too much the first time. So when you try to come back and charge a premium to correct it, they don't want to pay that either, because they're already having trust issues. So here we are trying to get top dollar for our work that we believe is top work, and making things right. But we're down a peg because the previous person that sold them made them gun shy because they got took. So they don't want to pay premium again without the belief, and have this standing belief that contractors are shady and Blacktop and Driveway and other contractors are shady. So it makes it really, really hard. What you were kind of talking about before we jumped on air here was the solution is do the right thing. Like if you're a contractor, do the right thing.
Right.
I find it very hard to believe that if you went to the homeowner and said, hey, it's going to be X amount. I can either dump the stumps in the driveway and you run into major issues, or we can do this and it'll be right and be right forever. What do you want to do? That they're gonna say, hey, give me the stumps. I don't care about it. Let's do it the wrong. And even if they do, then it makes a hard situation. It makes a hard situation to give them the option to not do the right thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's just do the right thing.
You're hitting on a whole totally different subject that you could write a whole article about, doing the right
for
thing.
Sure.
As a company, you have to get to a point where only the right thing is acceptable. We've actually gotten to a point where we will tell customers at this point, that's not the right way to do it. We're not interested in doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
The phone book is full of people that will do it that way. So, I don't believe, and this is something in the last 2 years I've learned to start saying to customers, and it's the first time you say it, it's like, ugh. But I've told customers, I don't think we're a good fit for each other. And
it's tough.
I've had some customers go, I okay, and then I've had other customers like, what are you talking about? Why aren't we? And I'm like, because you're not interested in doing it the right way. And you will hold my feet to the fire when it goes bad and does everything exactly the way I'm telling you it will go. And when it does do that, you'll be angry at me, regardless of what I put on my paperwork and whatever I make you sign. You're going to forget all of that. And with social media
and then we're going to have
today,
to run into a headache.
Yeah, and with social media today, they can shred you in 30 seconds, and it doesn't matter what conversation you had with them.
No way. You trust us. We know that here. It's bad. Like if we post that we did something and it's a good thing, there might be 2 people that say good job. If somebody else posts something and says we did a bad thing, it gets shared 1,000 times. We're jerks. We're whatever. It gets blown out, even if it's something very tiny that was just a perception thing, right? Like we don't purposely do things bad. At least I don't, anyways, and we don't here at BB. But everything is everybody's opinion, and now everybody's on one side or the other. Like if you can't have a good conversation and see things from both people's perspectives and say we're both right. They won't allow you to do that on social media anymore. Like you're an asshole or you're an angel. Like it's one or the other, and it's like it's tough. So you have to be careful now because perception is everything if you're a business owner, right? Like that's how many people do we talk to that says you got to have good Google reviews and Facebook reviews and everything else. Like that's what's going to get you success and move you to the top of Google and whatnot. So here we are walking on eggshells, and you wouldn't have to do that if you did the right thing and do what you're saying. Vet your customers. Where you're like, hey, it's not going to be a good fit. Like we'll go out sometimes. And they'll be like, every contractor I've had before, it's always washed off and always been junk and did whatever. And the one, I've tried calling and then they don't answer back or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, we're not going to be a good fit. I know we aren't, because if every single contractor you've ever had in the 20 years that you've owned this blacktop hasn't been good enough, chances are we're not going to be good enough either.
Put my name on that list.
Right, I don't even want to risk it. Yeah, I don't even want to risk dealing with it, especially since we have plenty of work to do, right? It's like, I don't want to go that route. So the basis is do the right thing.
You're right. And unfortunately, I know there's guys in certain areas of the country where the workload is just, it's not there to the point where you can have, a stance where you say it's basically my way or call somebody else. I see some of these guys and they're, I'm looking at the work that's available to them and I'm like, man, just,
it's tough.
Cover your butt the best you can, you know what I mean? And it's,
you got to do that dance early on. Some of those guys are early in their stages and you know how it was. Like you took the work, you need it. And like your gut told you like, this guy is going to be picky and it ain't going to be good no matter what we do.
Yep.
But you have to do it early on or breaking into that market, depending on what market it is. We got friends in like St. Louis and Chicago area and and whatnot, and it's tough because there's so many other contractors, especially on the maintenance side. There's so many, so you have to choose to do this work that, we get messages sent here, right? Because people want to pick my brain about seal coating, and we're out in the open for everybody to see, and they'll send pictures, and they're like, hey, how much would you charge per square foot to do this? And we'll get a picture of it, and no lie, Chris, it looks like wrap. It's that old, it's that raveled, it's that cracked up. And I'm like, you're not going to bid this. Like, you're not bidding this for seal coating. Yeah. I'm like, you don't. Walk away. Like, walk away. Like, well, the guy wants it seal coated. Like, the owner wants it seal coated. I'm like, you better, for us, if I do any, I hate this word, but if I do any coaching on stuff like that, I'm like, you better explain everything in detail, and you better understand what the outcome is going to be if you try to put material on this thing. Like, everybody needs to be crystal clear of what's going on. Like, you're making it black, and the chance of it staying black past 2 days is not highly possible. Like, it ain't gonna work. Like, it has to be that kind of expectation. And the big divider that we always say is, if that property owner or customer looks at you and says, no, I don't think so, I think it will hold up, or I think it will do this, you walk away. Like, if they think they know more than you, walk away. We do. Right. That's our rule of thumb. It's just like, walk away. Because what happens is they end up not being happy. They tell somebody else about it. That reputation goes around, not only yours, like your name, but also us as asphalt contractors. In my opinion, Dynapac CC900G roller is the best roller on the market for driveway and small parking lot paving contractors. The seismic technology in these rollers is unbeatable for the smoothness and compaction they provide. Take my word for it, or visit Dynapac.com to find a dealer near you.
Hey, Blacktop Banter fans, this is Michael with Aquafault. Aquafault is the only permanent repair material for asphalt and concrete that uses water. And installation is simple. Just pour, add water, and tamp. It's that easy. An Aquafault repair can be open to traffic immediately and fully sealed within 24 hours. Visit aquafault.com to learn more.
I work closely with KM International to design what I believe is the best seal coating unit on the market. The Blacktop Banter Edition seal coating unit, available in both 550 and 700 gallon versions. Learn more about the unit by visiting kminternational.com.
Quick startups, fume-free, automatic agitator shutoff, a splash-proof lid, and pumping on demand. These features are essential for any serious asphalt maintenance contractor. Elevate your game with the Crafco SuperShot line of melters by visiting crafco.com today.
Hi contractors, it's Kyla from Wiscoat. We use Stencil Plus for all of our pavement marking stencils. You can save 10% on your stencil order by using code BB10 during checkout at stencilplus.com or by calling 877-372-6055.
In the past year, Jobber has been our CRM of choice at Wiscoat, and it's made our world exponentially better efficiency-wise. For our small seal coating company, it has helped build the solid foundation we can scale from. Jobber is now a sponsor of Blacktop Banter and helps bring this show to you. With this partnership, Jobber is offering an exclusive savings to BB listeners of 20% off for 6 months. To take advantage of this, find the Jobber link in the show description and get to improving your process today.
One of the most aggravating things is when you're in those situations that you just talked about, is when the customer starts asking you the same question different ways, trying to get a different answer. And I'll usually let them do it twice, and then when they ask the same question the third time in a different format, I just look at them and tell them the answer is still no. Stop asking me the same question a different way to try and get a different answer. Because
that's a big red flag.
No, it's not the right way to do it, because they'll be, well, don't you think if we did this and then do that, it would be okay? No, absolutely not. Because, and honestly, sometimes the internet's the worst thing, because they'll get on and start asking me questions about stuff, and I'm like, and I tell them, I'm like, okay, whatever you just read that's from Kansas. Those terminologies and everything else are not used around here. So obviously you've been up all night trying to educate you on what it is that I'm proposing we do. But yet, you just got educated from somebody out in the Midwest that does it a certain way with what materials are available to them out there. That is not here. So it's
we ran into that.
It's tough. You've got a customer that thinks they've learned everything there is to know about your industry, but
overnight
it was for Arizona or or Florida.
We did that. We had one of our first customers early on. When I was seal coating, I was by myself, right? It was just me and a tank in the back of the truck. And I was really excited because I went to an open house for a seal coat supply company that we chose. And it's a common one in the industry. And the pamphlets that they gave me to give out to customers, which I was really excited to have, right? Like, I get to give my customers information, and like I look legitimate. I get to educate them some. It said asphalt-based sealer on top, right? And the customer asked me, he's like, is this oil-based? Is it coal tar, whatever? And I'm like, well, no, this is asphalt-based, right? And hand it to him, and it's on the pamphlet. And then we do crack filling and do some trim work. And then the next day I come back to spray the body of it. They were okay being off of it that day, so it was a 2-day job. When I come back, he has printouts from that website of the company, and on that one it says water-based, right? And he's like, well, this says water-based. And I was like, I get it. I get that it says that. What I gave you says asphalt-based. He's like, yeah, but it's saying it's the same thing. And I was like, this is a national company. Like, I can't help what gets distributed where by their marketing side to me or to the internet or whoever. All I can give you is what I know, and this is what I know. And once I never got that job again. I never got it again. I did the job. It looked great. We patched a hole. It held up. It was an asphalt emulsion, and it held up just as good as any other asphalt emulsion that I've ever used, and we've stuck with that asphalt emulsion since then. And it didn't matter. Didn't matter at all because he found a piece of information that contradicted the piece of information that I gave him from the same supplier, right? So I didn't do anything to miscommunicate the trust. I learned from that experience, right? Hey, it's an asphalt emulsion. It's asphalt-based. The water's a traveling agent. It's both in there. I do my best to explain it now, right, the best I can because I learned from it. But unknowingly, trust was broken because he went on the internet and found this and created mistrust in himself versus just trusting the contractor to do it. And the thing is, yes, you can do the right thing, which we've reiterated a few times. The most and the best of your ability. Is it foolproof? In that situation, no, because the guy trusted the internet, right? It was something he found on there. And it's tough. But, we're talking about two different things. We're talking about fixing the surface level actual blacktop in the driveway and making the job right again. Yep. But then we're also talking about fixing the underlying thing of what it does to our industry, what it does to contractors. And I'm sure this goes across all of them: roofing, plumbing, electrical, painting, all that stuff. There's always shortcuts or right ways to do it and wrong ways to do it. But how do we fix two things? Like this is where we'll end at. How do we fix two things? One, how did you fix the driveway? Like, what was the process once the stumps were out and whatnot? And then how do we fix perception? You've kind of went on that a little bit, and we've said do the right thing, but I'll let you touch on it a little bit after you tell us how did you fix the driveway?
Okay, so we spent, on that particular job, we wound up taking 2 loads of stumps out. There was 3 large rocks that the customer actually allowed us to leave on the tree line because they thought they were neat and they were okay with keeping them, which I was very glad about.
That's nice.
I didn't want to try dropping those in the back of the dump trucks, but so once the hole was excavated and cleaned, you get it boxed out best you can, so when you compact it, you've got square edges, and at that point we start backfilling it. So the first 4 or 5 feet, we used like a 3-inch minus crushed material, basically for no other reason than the cost per yard is a little cheaper. It's still good material. Yep. And this is where it really slows you down because now you're putting it in, you're trying to keep it at about a foot thick each layer. you put it in, grade it out, and now you've
Compact
got, you know, a fairly sizable walk behind down in the hole. So, and this hole really wasn't big enough that you could have a guy in the hole. So it was, you know, you put a foot of material in, grade it the best you can with the finish bucket, swing around, hook onto the compactor, drop it in the hole. Guy jumps down in, compacts it, pull it out, put another foot in. So, and I mean, at the deepest, this hole was almost 11 feet deep.
Dang.
So you got to do this 11 times over the course of about 500 to 600 square feet. So it takes a while, and this one particularly was wide enough that it went out into the lawn. So then, you know, once we got within a couple feet of the top, then, you know, we went to just the regular 1-inch crushed material and started coming up out of the ground with that, with the finer material, compact and that. And then at that point you try to, you know, distinguish the driveway and then the lawn area. And then, you know, we brought the driveway area up flush to the existing hot top, and then on the lawn area we brought in a load of loom and put some screen loom in that area. Got it raked out. At that point it was already, you know, like the morning we were there, we ripped out 3-4 inches of frost on the ground, so the ground was already starting to freeze. So at that point, and we had told the customer this because he called us right about Thanksgiving, and you know, we had told him we can get this done, but 2 things are going to happen. We'll get it loomed back flush to the existing lawn. We won't seed it, and we'll get the driveway graveled back flush to the existing pavement. We won't pave it. Yeah. So when we got to that point, we cut a couple nice straight edges in the driveway, the existing hot top, just to make it neat. I mean, we're going to go back next year, probably somewhere later in the summer, strip out the rest of the asphalt and repave the whole thing. But I'm kind of a stickler on appearances. You know, if you cut 2 nice straight edges in the driveway and butt the gravel up flush to it, in my mind, it just, that's the type of stuff that brings value to what you do. Now when they look out, they're not going to see this jagged, ripped up thing, you know, that a tooth bucket just tore it open. You know, now it's just 2 nice straight lines. So, and normally on a stump dump, anytime we excavate a stump dump, again, this all comes back to crystal clear communication in writing, but verbally to the customer face to face. And you know, setting expectations. They already knew going into it that it wasn't getting paved till next year. And the first thing they were talking about was, well, when do you start? And I say, well, we start paving again. We resume paving in April, but here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't want to try to repave this till end of the summer. I want you to drive over this thing after the ground's thawed out. I want it to get rained on all summer, because no matter how good you compact, you know, nothing compacts better than Mother Nature. And when you're 11 feet
give us some time.
You know, you could be 14 inches on one lift and not get the same amount of compaction as you did the lift underneath it or the lift above it. So, so even when we're,
that does 2
you know,
things.
If I'm doing one of these in April or May, I tell the people, we'll dig it out now. We'll be back in November to pave it.
It did 2 things. Doing that the right way, being crystal clear, is kind of how you fix the perception. Like doing it the right way, doing your due diligence. Like it's fixing the driveway can be how you fix the perception of us.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that's essentially what you described. I asked you to touch on both things. I figured it was going to be separately, but when you gave your description or your explanation on how to fix it, doing it that way does both. Right? Like they don't have a false thought of how it's going to get done. Right? Like that's the biggest thing.
They're very much intertwined. Doing it right is directly connected to the perception as well, because a lot of times people, you can be one of the best paving contractors out there, and if you don't have good communication skills with your customer, they are not going to care about how good you do the job. If you are, in my opinion, a good contractor not only does good work, but he sets good expectations, he sets guidelines, he follows them, and makes the customer aware of where you're at. And let's face it, we've all had jobs, you included. I don't care who you are, if you're a contractor, that you go in and you figure one thing and you get halfway through it and realize, hey, the game has changed here. What I told them is not 100% right. And that's where most things for most contractors go sour. They think it's going to look bad if they go to the customer and say, hey, I know I originally told you this, but now that we're a foot in the ground, we've found this. So I think the best thing to do from here would be to do this. We need to change what we originally told you because that wasn't correct. Not because we didn't know what we were doing, but simply now we're a foot in the ground and stuff that we couldn't see is now rearing its ugly head. So again, it comes back to, clear communications with the customer. Like you were saying, that one guy that sent you pictures of that one job, your first instinct was to tell the guy, you need to make sure you tell this person this. And that's what it comes down to is you hear Steve Brainey and those guys. I mean, that's the thing they're always banging on, setting clear expectations for the customer, because somebody has already given them an expectation before and broke it. So you get guys that like and once I talk about this, I'll ask you for one overall piece of advice to kind of end the podcast episode. But you get property owners where it's their first time doing asphalt maintenance or doing asphalt paving or anything, right? So in their mind, what they've seen before is seal coating is maybe somebody spraying CSS or tack oil, right, where it's everything sticky and it absorbs and locks in and makes it black, and they think that's what's going to happen. That's what's in my tank, so that's what I'm spraying. That's what they think, but it might be their first go around, and then also it might be, as the contractor, their first year, right? They've seen about seal coating, they kind of understand it. They don't know the full capabilities of what it can do or can't do. There's a lot of variables that go into whether your seal coating is going to be successful or not. It's not just the material choice, right? It's not just the sealer choice. There's a lot of things go into it, and they don't know that completely yet. So in order to avoid a headache, a major headache, that's the best thing. First of all, I think attending events like you and I attend, creating relationships with successful people that are in front of you, business-wise, and then using your resources, whether that's like the success group here at Blacktop Banter, which is a mastermind. Guys can go in there and ask these questions and educate themselves. But you can't let the shiny thing of, I got a job, this is a job, we're going to get it, take the place of common sense of, I need to do my work, I need to do my due diligence and figure out how this goes. So to wrap it up, what would be your overall piece of advice for people who are experiencing this kind of thing, maybe for the first time or haven't yet? What would be your best piece of advice? My advice to anybody is simply this. When you're out pricing work, be honest. Make sure if there's an unknown that you're not comfortable with, tell the people right up front, this is this, I'm not sure what's going on, I need to do some exploratory surgery, the cost of that is X. Enter into these jobs as honest, be honest with yourself about the numbers you're figuring too, because back in the day when I was younger and hungry, sometimes I would trick myself into thinking, I think I can do this, I think I can do that. Well, get around people like these, all these groups that get formed at all these events and everything else, partner up with people with more experience so that if you're in those situations, you can get in touch with them real quickly. Hey, I'm in this situation. What should I do? So the point I'm trying to make is don't put yourself in a bad situation. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're halfway through it and now you're looking at it and in your mind the right way to do it is going to cost me money, and this job I'm going to lose money on this job to do it right. We don't run into that problem much. We do, I would say, once or twice a year out of 200-300 jobs that we do get to a point where, hey, we're going to take a hit on this one, but I want it right, so be it. So
it's part of the damage. This is it's the way it goes. It's part of the game.
Price it to do it right, not don't trick yourself into I think I can, because nobody ever can. And set clear expectations for the customer and yourself, for that matter. You know what I mean? So the last thing you want to do is
that's a good piece of advice.
Send your crews out with a 50-50 shot that they might succeed or they might fail. You don't want to send your crews out setting them up for failure, because that just breeds discontent. And our motto,
start a whole nother thing of problems.
Our mission statement is to go out and install asphalt structures of high quality at the best price that we can do it right. Our motto is, and my sons came up with this motto, and they said, I think our motto should be whatever it takes. And I said, really? And they
that's
said,
a good one.
They said, because every time one of the foremen call you, you always end the conversation with, do whatever it takes to make it right. He said, you never ask, you never talk about the money or don't do that, we'll lose money on the job. It's always, is that what it needs? Okay, do whatever it takes to make it right. So that now is our motto, and that's even new guys, we tell them, it's do whatever it takes to make it right. Don't call me and ask me, because that's what you're going to be told. If that's what it takes to make it right,
you already know what it's going to be.
Then so be it. So that's my advice to any of the younger guys. Don't trick yourself into thinking you can do it for this price. Look at it openly, honestly, be honest with yourself as much as the customer. And hey, you might, guess what? Your competition might take some work from you, but let them drown.
I was going to say, that's why you said do whatever it takes, because you've been that guy where you were like, I would pay any amount of money to be out of this situation right now.
Correct. Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, we've all been there. I
have, for sure.
Yeah. And
can't sleep at night, worried about what they're going to think, what they're going to do, who they're going to call to sue you or whatever, take whatever. And you got kids to feed and a family to support and people to feed at your business. And
yep. And I mean, you and I have both been in it long enough now. We know what's right. We can look at a job 90% of the time and go, yeah, that's going to jump up and bite us in the boo-boo. So I'm going to factor in a little extra for that over there, because chances are when we get the dirt cleaned off of that corner, there's going to be 30 feet of cracks under that mess. You know what I mean? So some of that stuff you factor in on the maintenance side of it. And so
it's just how it goes. That's the name of it.
You spoke of pine trees. I can't tell you how many guys I see seal coating lots and there's 2 or 3 big pine trees hanging over it. And they just blow it off and seal it, and it's like, the seal is never going to stick.
What's coming.
Much pine pitch on that asphalt, it's like shellac. And if you don't take a torch to it or a hot air lance and burn it off, you're going to be back there next year, because all that seal is going to just peel off and be gone.
Yep. So, and they hired you because you said that it wasn't going to happen. Right. It's like that's where they go with it. But yeah, so those are the 2 big things, right? Do the right thing and do whatever it takes. Trust me, you're going to be happy on that backside for that. So, Chris, thanks so much for joining us. For myself and Chris Tammany at Petra Paving over in beautiful New Hampshire, we speak asphalt. Peace. Hey everybody, Marvin here from Blacktop Banter, and if you enjoy the podcast and what we've been bringing to the industry, you can support us through a one-time or recurring donation at blacktopbanter.com. There we have a support tab. You click that and choose your path from there. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do us a favor and leave a review there for us as well. As always, we speak asphalt, and thanks for your support.